Hi, and welcome to the Banker's View from Sibos video series, looking at all the hot topics here in Toronto this year. I'm Joy Macknight, Deputy Editor at The Banker, and I'm here with Matthew Davies, who's Head of Global Transaction Services, EMEA, at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us today.
Morning, Joy.
What do you think is the buzz on the floor here at Sibos?
I think there's three key themes that we've been hearing with clients so far. Reacting to market change, so whether that's Trump effect, whether that's Brexit, whether that's what we see going on in geopolitics. That's a key discussion area. I think another area is really around the change in tax law and what that's going to mean and the impact that's going to have around the world. But we're also seeing quite a lot of talk around the changing nature of correspondent banking relationships. And I think it's a point in time when banks have got to figure out, what are they? Are they the big universal bank there for everyone? Are they regionally focused, locally focused? And once you answer that question, what do you need? What's the partnerships that you need, whether that's with other banks or other companies that can give you access to the markets that you don't have presence in? And the changing nature of those dynamics, and a lot of discussions about how do you then charge around this, because I think the charging infrastructure is changing as well. And the third key area, just funny, is really around technology. So a lot of talk about cybersecurity, a lot of talk around what's happening with emerging technologies and partnerships with fintechs.
Okay, well that's what I wanted to talk about. How do you think sort of this fintech wave of disruption is really going to impact transaction banking?
Well, I think it's having a very, very positive effect in my view. When you think about how we've been doing business in banking for the last 30, 40 years, it really hasn't changed a whole bunch. Now, we're really starting to reevaluate, is this the best way of doing things? And I think fintech often raises some good questions and some challenges, and then you see the industry react to that. So you see initiatives such as Swift GPI, for example, which we've spent a lot of time talking about this conference, and I think that's a very, very good outcome coming from the challenge from fintech.
Okay. Open banking is another trend within the industry. How do you see that really impacting the bank-to-corporate relationship?
Well, it's very interesting because what we're seeing, and particularly in Europe, so PSD2 is driving a lot of thinking around this, and ultimately it's going to really change the nature of the relationship between the account holder and the service provider. And historically, wherever the bank account was, that was who provided the services linked to that bank account, and PSD2 really says that actually you've got to open that system up. So I think it is going to change, but I think a lot of that focus so far is very much on consumer services. But we've seen time and time again, anything that starts in the consumer space automatically bleeds into the corporate and institutional space. So I think we spend a lot of time talking with corporate treasurers, for example, around their emerging needs and what we need to do as banks in partnering with other companies, other banks, to make sure that we fully meet their needs. I think the big mistake that you can make is to forget about the client. If you focus on client needs, and if you're constantly providing services that meet those clients' needs, then I don't think you'll go far wrong. And I think increasingly those needs will be met by a combination of banks and fintechs.
Okay, and I just want to ask, maybe my last question is really, what do you see the future of transaction banking will look like?
Well, I think it is going to be a much more collaborative space. I think when you look at banks, as I said earlier, looking at that correspondent banking model, I think you're going to see a lot more partnership and a lot more banks and other providers focusing on their core competency and making sure that they have the right partnerships in place to provide a full breadth of services and solutions to their clients. So I think we're going to see that evolve a lot more. And I certainly expect to see a lot more partnership with fintech. It's a space that we spend a huge amount of time and resources focusing on. We invest in the fintech space. We partner very, very closely with a number of fintechs, and we bring solutions to market based off those partnerships. And I think it's looking at the latest technology such as artificial intelligence. Are we going to build all of that ourselves, or are we going to partner with the best and the brightest in the industry to bring that type of technology and solution to our clients? And clearly, the latter is a smarter way to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your insights, Matthew.
Pleasure.